Do you love the sound of your own voice? If you are like 99.9% of corporate professionals that I've worked with on communication, I already know the answer. It's a resounding no. I hate the way I sound, particularly if you've suffered the indignity of hearing your recorded voice played back to you, whether on a video or an audio recording. The universal reaction of people I work with is, I sound awful. I can't believe I walk around and people listen to that voice. Here's the funny thing, even people who I would say have an objectively beautiful voice still feel that way when they hear themselves. Now, some of us are not born with a particularly naturally lovely sounding voice, but whether you have the gift of a beautiful mellifluous tone or whether you're a bit more like me, maybe a bit vocally challenged, all of us can improve the way we come across. Now, is this important in a business context? You bet it is, because our voice is what carries our words. Our message comes through our voice. So if we have a voice that is hard to hear, hard to understand, unpleasant to listen to, or simply distracting, a chance of engaging with our message is greatly diminished. To that end, here are 3 big tips on how you can improve the way your voice sounds. Tip number 1, and I've already mentioned it. Tip number 1 is to listen to yourself. Now, I don't mean listen to yourself while you're in the act of talking. I mean record yourself delivering a message and listen back. Now, when you get over that initial horror and shock, which I mentioned before, of I don't like the way I sound, well, don't worry about that. Objectively listen to yourself. And when you're listening to yourself, there are 4 things I would like you to listen for. Are you ready? They all start with a P. The 4 P's are projection, pace, pitch, and pause. Projection is how easily you are heard by the person or people that you're speaking to. Pace is how fast or how slow you talk. Pitch is the literal musical pitch of your voice. Is it high or is it low as you talk? And do you put pitch inflections in your speech? And pause is how well do you use pause to create a nice cadence and a nice rhythm in your speech? Projection, pace, pitch, pause. Be honest with yourself. Do I like what I'm hearing when I hear those 4 elements? Or could I work on them? Are they levers I could pull to make my voice come across in a more interesting, more compelling, and easier to understand way? The second tip that I have for you is very easy. We do it all the time. Breathe. Remember to breathe. Have you ever heard someone speak and they're obviously nervous? Their voice wavers a little bit when they're talking, or they get very quiet or hard to hear when they're maybe public speaking, something that makes them quite nervous. A way to mitigate and manage this situation is just to remember to breathe. By taking in a nice lungful of air, not only does it calm us down a little, which helps us with our performance anxiety when it comes to talking, but if we fill our air with lungs, we then have something to breathe out as we're talking, and it will help you project well, and it will help your voice sound nicer as it comes across. So just remembering to breathe, and we can put that in with the 4 P's I just told you about. We can pause and breathe. We can use breathe to help us with our projection. When we stop to breathe, we are decreasing the pace of our speech, and many of us speak way too fast. I'm one of those people too. And of course, it can help us with our pitch. If we're breathing, we can affect a lower, more authoritative pitch as we breathe out with our words. The third tip to make your voice sound a little bit more interesting is to think about which part of your body your voice is coming from. Now, you might be saying, Paul, that's kind of silly. I know where it comes from. It comes from my vocal cords and out of my mouth. Yes, that's true. But let me give you an example. And many Australians, for example, have a tendency to talk up here in our nose or the top of our throat. Makes us sound quite nasal and not very pleasant. Where if we focus our center on our diaphragm in our body, in our torso, we can produce a much nicer sound coming from our vocal cords still, but they're affected by the way the air passes through our body. 3 tips: listen to yourself and focus on the 4 P's. Breathe, and don't forget to think about where your sound is coming from. Focus on the body, the diaphragm. Good luck, and I look forward to hearing some beautiful vocal tones.